Every once in a while, my job affords me the wonderful opportunity to go into a game demo completely blind and come out completely enlightened. All I knew about Jumpship before I met with 3 of its 10-person Swedish development team, including Daniel Kaplan, who was employee number 1 at Mojang, and Philip Koulianos, a co-founder at Hazelight, was that it was codenamed Hyperspace and that it would be a, quote, 4-player co-op adventure where you and 3 of your friends get to live the ultimate space fantasy. It started as a tech demo, but everyone loved it, so now it's being made into a full game. I was fortunate enough to play a 30-minute session with Kaplan, Koulianos, and another member of Keepsake Games, and I was blown away. The headline you clicked on to get into this video is not hyperbole. By Keepsake's own definition, and one that I'd co-sign after playing the game for myself, Jumpship is a clear mix of Sea of Thieves, Left 4 Dead, and FTL. The Sea of Thieves piece comes from the fact that you and your 3 teammates all work together to fly, upgrade, customize, and maintain a single spaceship. One of you flies it, while the others can wander around inside of it or even on the outside of it if you pass through an airlock and then use your magnetized boots to stomp around the hull, manning, fixing, or upgrading the ship's cannons. That in and of itself is fun. But even if Jumpship was just Sea of Thieves in space, where you and your crew cooperated in ship-to-ship battles, it'd still probably be pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
That was the hit.
But instead, you'll also land your ship, use your jet drive to awesomely fly through the air like Superman away from or towards your ship, go into instanced combat areas and battle AI enemies. Jumpship, by the way, is a purely PvE game, marking one major difference from Sea of Thieves, in encounters that can get pretty tough, thus necessitating cooperation with your pals.
Gotcha. A grenade, Spider-Bot.
Add in that an AI director, to use Valve's term, dynamically populates these encounters, and you can see where the Left 4 Dead ingredient in Jumpship's recipe comes from.
Manual override is required.
I had a fantastic time blasting bots with the Keepsake developers. Finally, FTL. On board your ship, you'll manage power conduits and other ship functions in an FTL-esque minigame, which sadly I don't have footage of. All of it combines into a moment-to-moment that's never dull and constantly evolving.
Hostile entities detected.
Just when you get bored of manning the ship, assuming you're not the pilot, which by the way is super fun, it's time to land and go into full first-person shooter mode. And when you've done plenty of shooting and got your loot reward and are escaping and being blasted at as your ship departs, you're scrambling aboard the ship to make necessary repairs like a Star Trek crew. Meanwhile, you can choose any number of mission types from your ship map, from smaller loot-light payoffs that won't take too long, to longer multi-part episodes that have bigger rewards. Keepsake promises a metagame that will enable various forms of permanent character and ship progression, but naturally I didn't have a chance to see those in my short hands-on session. Still, I've seen enough to be thoroughly convinced. Jumpship is going to take us through crazy space battles, dogfights in the skies of planets, intense on-foot missions on the ground, and more. All while working together with 3 friends in ways that feel fun and useful without being frustrating. Kaplan and Koulianos told me that it's going to ship simultaneously on PC and Xbox whenever it's finally ready, and I can't wait. For more looks at the latest upcoming games, check out our previews of Dune Awakening and Visions of Mana. And for everything else in the world of video games, laying a course for IGN. You may remember from last week's episode, our reviewer for Avowed on IGN, Travis Northup. Welcome back, Travis.
Nice to be here.
And our special guest this week joining us from Obsidian, we have the game director on Avowed, Carrie Patel. Carrie, thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having me.
And someone that I haven't seen in quite a while. He was an IGN Unfiltered guest way back in the day where we dug into his whole career. Although we got to do another one because there's been a lot more careers since then. The studio head at Obsidian, Fergus Urquhart. Fergus, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too, and it has been a while.
It has indeed, but we have plenty to talk about this week. Avowed is out, whether you're playing on Game Pass, whether you've bought it on Steam, however, wherever you're playing it. I'm playing it on my Series X. Travis reviewed it on PC, Travis?
Series X also, actually.
Series X also, nice. So we've just got, we're just swimming in Avowed happily this week because it's the first major new release for Xbox of 2025. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, kind of new, but kind of old. So Avowed, the first properly new big release for Xbox in 2025. And Travis and I have prepared a bunch of questions. We want to talk about this game. This has been a long time coming. This was one of the first games revealed for the Series X several years back. And, Carrie, I want to start with you as the game director here and kind of your approach to this in the sense of you, from what I could gather from you online, you're a renowned traveler. You studied abroad in both Spain and Argentina during college while you were earning your degree in, fittingly, international studies. So I'm curious because as I've been playing Avowed, I could see I wonder how much that influenced Avowed's locations. Because everywhere I've been in Avowed so far really feels like a fleshed out, lived in location. So I don't know if you can kind of speak to bringing that personal experience to the game.
Yeah. So, one of the really fun things about choosing the Living Lands as the setting for Avowed is that in the canon of Pillars of Eternity, it is supposed to be this wild, colorful site with all of these different and distinct biomes, and just a lot of really wonderful vistas, a lot of very different environments, and a lot for the player to explore. So the team actually took inspiration from around the world to create some of the different biomes and subbiomes that you see in Avowed. I remember we took some inspiration from, I believe, like the terraced farming in the Philippines for parts of the Emerald Stair region. And then we took inspiration from a lot of different places to create some of the different subbiomes of Shatterscarp, which features a mix of kind of high desert, these very rocky, craggy environments, and then these kind of very fun canyon environments like the Shark's Teeth. So really for Avowed, we wanted to pull inspiration from everywhere, really give the player this sense of traveling through this strange, massive land, kind of one biome, one region at a time.
Awesome. Travis, fire away, my friend.
Yeah, researching you online, it looks like you've written a number of books as well, Carrie. I saw the Recoleta novels up there. How has being an author shaped your career as a game director, or I guess vice versa?
I think so. I try to think about story holistically, and I think that's especially important in games where, the story that the player experiences, it's not just the dialogue, it's not just the plot, it's their experience through the game. And that's a combination of kind of their moment-to-moment pacing, also the visual stories that the world tells to the player, the way they encounter that story through quests, through combat, they're playing the story. And one key difference between, writing for a video game and writing for fiction is in fiction, you can within reason rely on your characters to do what you need them to do in the moment to move the story forward and to create the kind of tension and motivation that makes for a really tight plot. However, in games, and this is especially true for the kinds of role-playing games that Obsidian is really known for, you have to create that motivation for the player, and you also have to leave them a lot of room to kind of interpret and either run with those motivations or at times subvert them. And so we try to avoid making the player ever feel railroaded. We give the player a starting premise in their role as the envoy. They're a godlike. They have a mysterious connection to one of the divine beings in the world, and they're here on a mission from the Emperor of Adir. But what they choose to do with those mandates, whether they again choose to fulfill them faithfully, whether they start to poke at the edges a bit, that's really up for the player. And so we try to create, lots of opportunities for players to really inhabit that role, especially in writing dialogue. I think it's critical to make sure that the player character can be just as interesting, dramatic, and funny as any of the NPCs they're talking to. So writing for a game is really about creating that possibility space for the player, giving them interesting options, and letting them try things and see what happens.
I love that. Fergus, I don't want to leave you out here. First of all, I have to ask you, have any of the other studio heads inside XGS like slacked you or called you up or texted you and told you to just like slow your roll a little bit here? Because after you've announced you've shipped Avowed, and then you're shipping a second first person role-playing game this year. So can you kind of speak to, whereas some of the Xbox game studios, we haven't even seen their first game from them yet.
So I think a part of it is, I think it's less about, slow your roll and are you insane? I think is a little bit of it. But no, I think we were very lucky in that sort of as a studio, when we came on with XGS and Xbox, we were about 170, 180 people, and through the course of the last, I guess now 5 or 6 years, we've not only grown the studio to about 285 people, but we also have a lot of really good co-dev partners with Heavy Iron and Beamdog. And so we're just in a situation where we have the opportunity and we have the resources to do this kind of thing. But believe me, I mean, there was a lot of conversations 3 or 4 years ago about like, is this going to work? Are we going to be able to do it? And luckily, we're doing it. Avowed's turned out great, and Outer Worlds 2 is looking awesome. But I would also say there are the occasional side glances of like, really another game this year, So I know what you mean.
Oh, I love that. Can you kind of speak real quick too before we get back into Avowed specifically about how the game is doing versus expectations? Because I've been seeing a lot of celebratory posts online from our mutual friend Aaron Greenberg with Steam charts and stuff. So can you kind of speak to the early returns so far versus the expectations?
Oh, it's looking really good. So I mean, a lot of it is just, I mean, what we've all been, me, Carrie, and the rest of the team, had just been in the mix, just reading every review, reading everything on Reddit, looking on TikTok and every corner of the internet to really understand, okay, how are people liking it? What are they liking? What are they not liking it? And just seeing what we can do to react. And because you just learn a lot. You learn a lot about your games. I mean, we could have hundreds of people testing the game before it comes out, but then when it hits the streets and people are playing it, then you're like, oh, okay, this worked, this didn't work, let's tweak this, there's that, we need another unique here, maybe we need to inject 5,000 gold here, like just things like that. So that's really been the focus. I think for a lot of us, we're just basically, it's like no sleep for a while. And then I think that we actually get to actually enjoy the launch and congratulate ourselves maybe in like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that's really been the focus lately.
Because Carrie, you directed a DLC for the Outer Worlds, but this is your first time, I believe, as a game director on a full project. So you are a person then that's reading the reviews of your game? Because I've talked to many developers over the years. Some of them just don't like to read the reviews, and some of them want to read every word. So I guess you're in the latter camp.
Yeah, I think it's important to absorb the feedback. It can definitely feel like drinking from a fire hose at times, but I think you chip away at it in bits, and you talk with. We have a wonderful comms team that also pulls a lot from not only our published reviews but also our user reviews, user feedback. We have a very active Discord channel that our comms team runs, where they are pulling issues that players are running into, reporting those back to us, and getting those into the pipeline for our team to fix. So there are a lot of channels for this feedback. You start chipping away at it and kind of absorbing it piece by piece. And over time, I think you get a real picture of what players enjoy, what they would like to see differently, and also what they were looking for in the first place with your game.
Travis?
That's interesting. I know something that has been discussed a lot was, at least externally by folks like us, was the art style of Avowed and how it seems to have evolved over time, clearly from the original cinematic reveal trailer to the final game. Can you talk about that and kind of the rest of the game's tone, shape, and style, and how it changed?
Yeah. So the cinematic reveal trailer that we all saw several years ago was it was based around a different idea of what Avowed would be, where it would take place, what it would be about. So the everything that we've shown since then with this much more colorful, the much more colorful visuals, kind of the focus on the living lands, reflects the direction that we've been moving in as a project since early 2021. For us, part of this color is about really showcasing, the beauty and the danger of the living lands. If we're picking this exotic, strange frontier for the player to go to, it should be fun and beautiful to explore. And it's been really cool to see players engaging with those vistas, taking screenshots from, some of their favorite spots around the map. So we wanted it to be beautiful. We wanted it to sell this sense of kind of otherness, of strangeness, but of, kind of this something that is still very majestic. And the other thing that it does is it kind of lets us show the danger of the living lands. Like part of what you're seeing in this gameplay right now is, bits of this dream scourge gunk, which is kind of a visual signifier of the mysterious plague that the player is in the living lands to investigate. And there's something kind of gross about it, but there's also something kind of beautiful about it. It has sort of this soap bubble iridescence. And I think without getting, too much into the weeds or too into spoilers, one of the questions the player is going to be asked to answer over the course of the game is, the living lands is going through a series of transformations. Some are related to the Adirian Empire's presence in the living lands, and some are related to the Dream Scourge and the forces behind it. Are those changes for the better? Are they for the worse? And what are you going to do about it? And so I think creating something that also visually explores that sense of ambiguity and pairs that danger with some beauty. I think it just gives players a lot to chew on and makes our world very beautiful and fun to explore.
You mentioned, Carrie, that pivoting in early 2021 to the game that we ultimately got was that decision to kind of go in a different direction than what you'd originally considered for Avowed? Was that based on sort of internal discussion of, do we want it to be this darker thing? Do we want to go with a brighter, different, or was it just like a story-based thing? Was it based on player feedback from that initial teaser? I'm just kind of curious if you can speak a little bit more to, because games change and evolve over time, and most of the time we as players don't know about what it originally looked like. And I thought that was an interesting comment that you made, and also that original teaser versus the final game. It is sort of an interesting signpost of like, they were here and they ended up over here.
I mean, I could probably, you want me to jump? Yeah, I can kind of, I could talk, and then we'll go on that. Is that, so where Avowed started was, it was actually started in 2018 at E3, when we were kind of, as a studio, we were looking for our next thing. And it really was where our intent at the time, or how we were thinking about it is, hey, let's go make our Skyrim, and also let's make it multiplayer. So let's shoot for the moon and do the crazy thing. And now, in some ways, what that was great about that was there was a lot of interest at E3, and in particular, there was interest at Microsoft. In a lot of ways, it was the idea that got this conversation started about us being acquired. On top of the fact that we were already working on the Outer Worlds, and we already had sort of some early ideas about Grounded all the way back in 2018, and so then we got acquired, and we started working on it. And we really were trying to stick to that idea of this kind of more open world, more multiplayer. And I think what was happening, and I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but try not to obsess about it, where we were kind of moving away from what we do as an RPG maker. We found in the Outer Worlds, we just do a really good job from the standpoint of like these semi-open world. It sounds like a weird way of saying it, but just these regions that really work well. They have a focus. They have a story themselves. They have the people that are there. As you were remarking, it's about all the world building. And I think as we were seeing what was happening, the game just wasn't coming together, and we were making it different than we've made them before. And that's kind of what led to now transitioning and moving the team over to Carrie making it.
And it's, I guess, clearly, not only in a vacuum, that decision has proven correct, because the game we got, Avowed, is fantastic. But surely your eyes are open. You've seen around the industry of other developers that were really good at one thing that tried pivoting to something else, and more often than not, I'm not going to name names, but you've seen how it went. So clearly, you must feel pretty good, both in a vacuum and in a larger industry picture, that you've made the right call here.
Yeah, no, I definitely. I think a lot. It's hard because, like, I mean, I know this is not always visible to everyone. You were talking about visibility to people and not. But a lot of this is that it's probably frightening to PR people for me to even say these words. But we're still learning a lot about how we make games, right? So this is not something. There isn't some like there's some master's programs, but this is something that what we do is we're always figuring out how to push, right? How far can we push the engine? How many NPCs can we have it? How can we get conversations to look this way versus that way while having action combat and uniques, and you can do things to put things directly from the world into your stash and party cap. And there's this litany of things that we're trying to do. And I think, it gets hard if you try to do that within the context of moving far away from what you know and what you're good at. But on top of it, it's also about what you love. Like Ballad of City, we like to do different things. Like our core being is we love to make story, reaction, agency-based RPGs. And we just sometimes have to remind ourselves of that.
Kinda broke me. Hear me out. It didn't just break me in the screw this boss, this game is hard as hell, I give up kind of way. Like it, invariably breaks everyone who has started or rolled credits on Bloodborne. That's part of the whole fun of it. No, it broke me because it completely raised the bar on what a third-person action horror game could be, and I've honestly been chasing that high ever since. That is until I played Lies of P, the brand new Souls-like. No, it's not just a Souls-like. Until I played Lies of P, the brand new Bloodborne cover album from a relatively unknown South Korean studio called Round 8. Lies of P isn't better than Bloodborne, and it never truly reaches the same highs for me, but it comes close enough. And in a world where we tragically still don't have a Bloodborne 2, I will take it. So let's celebrate Bloodborne and its brand new baby brother, Lies of P. First though, let's do a quick recap of how we got to the point where a game so openly lifting Bloodborne's whole entire shtick is even worth celebrating to begin with. Lies of P isn't the first game to try and give FromSoft a run for their money in the genre FromSoft invented. Far from it, actually. During the 13-year stretch between 2009's Demon's Souls and 2022's Elden Ring, all sorts of other game studios got in on the Soulsborne genre with their own take on things. So much so that we had to create the new term Souls-like, a new label for Souls games that were not made by the studio that makes Souls games, FromSoft. Let's go through them. There was The Surge, which was future Souls with robot parts, Neo, which was Samurai Souls, Salt and Sanctuary, side-scrolling Souls, Remnant, which was first-person Souls, we had Star Wars Souls, Souls of the Fallen, Eldest Souls, which literally had Souls in its title, and tons and tons and tons more, like so many more. But none of them were really specifically trying to be like Bloodborne. That's the thing, we've had dozens of Souls-likes, but next to no Born-likes. Lies of P is the first game to really try and tap into the specific energy, pacing, and game feel of Bloodborne. Game feel, that weirdly intangible texture or flavor that specific games or franchises have that make them special. Like, you feel it when you jump in Mario, throw an axe in God of War, and dodge, roll, run, and attack in Bloodborne. It's different than in Dark Souls, and it's different than in nearly every other Souls-like. People like me really love Bloodborne. Sure, it only sold a couple of million units, and it's landlocked as a console exclusive on the PlayStation 4, playable on PS5 as well, but that hasn't stopped hardcore Bloodborne fans from obsessing over it for years. There's a massive art and cosplay community around it, a fan-made PS1 demake, a fan-made Bloodborne kart racing game, and every PlayStation showcase and state of play presentation is preceded by an army of pitchfork-wielding Bloodborne fans like myself demanding a 4K 60 frames per second remaster of the game, to the point that some people just said, "F it," and they made it themselves. People love Bloodborne. For reasons we'll never really know, it never got a sequel, spin-off, or spiritual successor. That is, until Lies of P launched this year as a love letter to Bloodborne. So what makes Bloodborne and Lies of P so similar? Well, for starters, both games feature a character with a gun-like weapon in their left hand and a big-ass, sharp, upgradable weapon in their right hand. They both have you creeping around cobblestone streets where overturned carriages, rotting horse carcasses, and dead bodies litter the once bustling neighborhoods, now overrun with nightmarish approximations of townspeople. They both make you stop off at glowing beacons to save and then warp back to a safe area to level up with the help of an emotionless woman dressed like a weird Victorian doll before heading back out to explore dense forests, creaky workshops, and colossal towers riddled with murderers leaking from the shadows and grotesque hulking bosses ready to pound you to smithereens with cartoonishly large hammers. And both games let you do it all while wearing a big dark trench coat and a weird but lovable animal mask. In case you don't want to see your hunter's eyes, or in Liza P's case, you don't feel like looking at a bootleg Timothy Chalamet for dozens of hours. Who does? I mean, some of you, I guess.
What have you done lately, oh great artiste?
See, Bloodborne had what I like to call the secret sauce, the juice, you know, the blood vials or whatever. It took all of the magic that FromSoft had been working into the Dark Souls and Demon Souls games and made it quicker, snappier, and more terrifying. And like Bloodborne, Liza P just moves quicker too. Themes and environments aside, Bloodborne and Liza P are simply built around faster traversal and combat. Sure, you know, some of the old school Dark Souls heads miss the heavier, more stoic approach to Souls games, but Bloodborne's reliance on gothic horror themes over evil Playmobil castles totally won me over. Now, since Bloodborne launched in 2015, FromSoft has continued to evolve the Souls genre with games like Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, and Elden Ring, which all up the ante in brilliant ways, and I love them all, but none of them connected with me on the same way that Bloodborne did. Elden Ring came closest with its near infinite options in weapon sets, stats, and playstyles, meaning I could get like damn near close to having my character feel like he plays like a Bloodborne hunter, but its emphasis on open world exploration and fast-paced yak horse travel, whatever Torn is just inherently different than, you know, tiptoeing around the dark and claustrophobic streets of Yharnam, a feeling that Liza P has almost completely recaptured for me. Now, there are some key differences, though, between Liza P and Bloodborne. Liza P doesn't tilt as hard into horror as Bloodborne does, although it does occasionally get close. Instead, it goes with a kind of steampunk theme, which ends up feeling less like Castlevania and Sleepy Hollow, and more like Bioshock and the City of Lost Children. Liza P largely trades Bloodborne's organic approach to enemies, you know, wolves, spiders, mangled mares, for mechanical ones, opting to more frequently give the player gnashing, chirping robots to tear apart. You do eventually fight some more beast-like enemies, but Liza P's story, influenced almost entirely by the original 1883 The Adventures of Pinocchio book by Carlo Collodi, is one of robot puppet servants revolting against the real people, mostly killing them and then stalking the streets at night. But one of the biggest differences is that Liza P is generally just an easier game than Bloodborne. It's definitely still tough, and there are definitely some big pain-in-the-ass bosses that will beat you down and make you almost throw your controller. But there's nothing in Liza P as tough as Bloodborne's Orphan of Kos or Lawrence the First Vicar. It even got a pretty significant patch that made a bunch of bosses even easier recently, and your weapons even tougher, while simultaneously reducing the weight of the main character's weapons and secondary items, making it easier to go through the game without getting over-encumbered and slowed down by all your stuff. And Bloodborne never really got anything on that level. They made the loading times quicker. Thankfully, because at launch, it was like a minute and a half every time you died, and you died a lot.
Still lingering about.
Additionally, Liza P is smaller in scope. It's a slightly shorter game if you're just sticking to the main story. More importantly, though, it doesn't really have much in the way of optional content, like large-scale secondary areas and bosses that aren't part of the progression through the Golden Path. Bloodborne eventually got the Old Hunters DLC, a massive, awesome expansion that added a bunch of new areas, bosses, and weapons, and I'm really hoping Liza P gets something similar, not because the core game is lacking or anything, far from it really. It took me like 40 hours to roll credits on Liza P. I really took my time with it, and that was with lots of backtracking to grind my stats up and find most of its hidden items and weapons. No, I want more Liza P because I think it's awesome, and it's more likely to get DLC than Bloodborne is to get a remaster, remake, or sequel, although I will never stop asking and praying for those things.
Farewell, good hunter.
But it's not just that Liza P pays a mean tribute to Bloodborne. Liza P actually does some stuff better than Bloodborne. Don't kill me on this one. Bloodborne is kind of light on story and heavy on lore, you know, the stuff in the margins that you kind of need to dig around for to appreciate. Bloodborne's got tons of that. While Liza P puts his story more front and center with a great script and lots of cinematics to bring it all together. Also, and again, hear me out on this before you behead me with a whirligig saw or a threaded cane, I think Liza P has a deeper and more nuanced weapon system. Let's start with your left-handed projectile weapon, known as your Legion Arm, which can be swapped out and upgraded to various effects and perks. I played most of Liza P with an arm weapon called the Puppet String, which works somewhat like Scorpion's Chain from Mortal Kombat, quickly pulling enemies towards you and you towards them once you upgrade it with big, powerful attacks to boot. Bloodborne's left-hand weapons, on the other hand, are, I guess the same hand, are mostly pistols, shotguns, blunderbusses, rifles. They're fun as hell, but they're somewhat limited in terms of how you can tweak and improve them aside from stats. And then there's also your main right-hand weapons in Liza P, and that's where things get really interesting. Liza P technically has fewer weapons than Bloodborne overall, but it does something unique with them. Most of the weapons in Liza P can literally be dismantled into two components, a blade and a handle. So you can then mix and match those components to make new weapons, which can be upgraded on their own, tweaking attack stats and attributes along the way. This basically means that there's kind of like infinite or nearly infinite weapon combinations in Liza P, which leads to some really cool varieties in character performance and playstyle. Now, this ends up working really well in favor of Liza P's emphasis on robot parts and steampunk aesthetics. There's a distinctly toyetic, kit-bashing kind of feel to the weapon system, and it helps Liza P stands on its own, despite so much of the game feeling like a Bloodborne spiritual successor, or like I said before, a cover album. It's the kind of evolution that you would expect FromSoft themselves to implement if we ever got an actual, official Bloodborne sequel, and again, since we haven't yet, I will gladly take it here in Liza P. So there you have it. After years and years of seemingly dozens of video game developers trying their own take on Dark Souls, we finally have a game that's specifically showing some love to Bloodborne. It's not perfect, and it's not better, but it's doing enough of its own thing that I fell in love with it for what it is, and I think you will too. If you're like me and you love Bloodborne, you want something awesome to play in between setting up your quarterly Bloodborne remaster and Bloodborne 2 summoning circles, we've all been there and I'll be there with you. Definitely check out Liza P. It's a fantastic start from Round 8 Studio and publisher NeoWiz, and I hope it becomes a franchise for years to come. So, what's your take on Liza P? Are you playing it? Do you love Bloodborne and the Soulsborne and Souls-like genres in general? Celebrate that stuff in the comments below. And until then, for all things video games, and especially Bloodborne, stick with IGN. Good hunter.
Okay, so two things happened there in quick succession. Something that will never get old about seeing a rock land on someone's head. Hi folks, I'm Matt Easton of Scholar Gladiatoria channel and also Scholar Gladiatoria Fencing Club. I'm essentially a medieval and historical fighting aficionado and expert, if you want to call me that. I'm also an antique arms and armor dealer, and one of the other things I do is I study the original historical artifacts, the arms and the armor. So I'm a former archaeologist myself, and currently I do work with Windlass Company Replicating Swords and the Royal Armouries, looking at original arms and armor and then creating perfect one-to-one replicas of those. And today we're going to be looking at some gameplay, some battling, some fighting from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, looking at the arms and armor. I'm going to stop right there. So I'm really impressed that they have people standing in what looks like a guard position. So in fencing or any martial arts, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at HEMA, so historical European martial arts, which is what I do, or whether you're looking at Japanese, Korean, Chinese, whatever. Usually you hold weapons, or indeed if you don't have a weapon, you tend to have certain stances and positions that you fight from. So I like the fact that they do have thought out and specific guard positions shown. And then that first blow that comes in, he does a pretty conventional parry, as we'd call it, on an inside guard or cart, if you want to use sort of 19th century fencing terms. You can see that they consulted with people who know about historical combat, and I know that the team that work on Kingdom Come have absolutely consulted HEMA experts on this. Right, okay, I really like the detail there and the use of the left hand. So, you know what? I've got a medieval sword here, you know, as you do. So one of the things that I think not everybody realizes is when we're using swords, especially if you're just using a single sword by itself, we'll often use the spare hand. So it's great to see that you can use it for grabbing the other person's hand or arm, manipulating their body. even punching them. I wasn't too happy about that cut though, and there's a reason here. Now we're going to talk about the armor. So the guy is dressed in kind of late 14th century style armor, as far as I can see, which is a bassinet helmet with an attached aventail, it's called. So that chainmail around the neck, that's called an aventail. Now, you wouldn't be able to cut through that. You could stab through it, but you wouldn't be able to cut through it. So I'm not that happy about the cutting move specifically shown against the mail, because it wouldn't go through it. Although I like his guard position, it's kind of weirdly wide. There is a guard in the Italian systems that'd be called posta di finestra, which means the window guard, and usually it's held closer to the head. The problem with holding the weapon wide is it increases your reaction time. Say someone attacks to this side of my head, it means that I've got to move the sword further to get it over there. So to be honest, this actually isn't technical stuff. As soon as you get people sparring and fencing and someone's actually trying to hit them, you'll notice that a wide position like this very quickly becomes a narrow position like this, because they're trying to move as quickly as they can to either attack the opponent or defend themselves. But for gameplay purposes, I can kind of understand why maybe that makes it clearer to see. Okay, so two things happened there in quick succession, which I really, really like. First of all, a pommel to the face. A lot of people fixate on the blade, but they forget the fact that everything here is a weapon, and everything on the rest of your body is a weapon as well. So you can punch, you can kick, you can wrestle, you can throw. Hitting someone with a pommel, which is where we get the expression to pummel someone, is far more effective than punching them with your fist, although this guy's got gauntlets on, so that would make it more effective. But a pommel is, it's not sharp, it's not pointy, but it's roughly equivalent to the hammer in your shed. Not going to kill you, usually, but it will open a person up for that follow-up thrust. And I really like the detail that it was a thrust as a finishing blow. In this period, 14th, 15th century, in armor, thrusts are king, because thrusts can go in gaps between armor, or indeed against chainmail or mail, they can actually go through the armor. The fact that it's thrust through is really good and realistic and historical. You wouldn't be able to cut through it, but you could thrust through it. And that's what happens here, which is great. This is an interesting fight because it's asymmetrical. We're not armed the same way. So we've got our opponent has what we call an arming sword. It's called that because it's the sword that you arm with, which means get dressed, essentially, when you put on your armor. We, the players, are using a flanged mace, called that because it has flanges around here which are designed to concentrate the energy but also bite into armor that we're hitting. And we've got a shield. Now, I have to say, if a person's got a large shield and the other person doesn't, they've got a massive advantage. So on paper, the person with any kind of hand weapon, even if it was just a hammer with a shield, will have an advantage over someone who's just got a single sword, because the shield is such a game changer. It's why people carried them for centuries and millennia. So although I really like, the guard positions and the way that they're moving, it does look like it's been slowed down, and I would kind of like it to be dialed up. At the moment, it looks a little bit like slow motion taking turns. I like what they're doing, I just don't quite like the speed they're doing it at. Right, I like that more, that quick flurry. So that looks more like fighting speed to me, with those flurry of attacks from the mace. I also like the variety, and I like the fact they have the thrust in there, because although you might go, oh, well, the mace doesn't have a point, so you can't thrust with it, but you can thrust with anything. You can thrust with a walking stick if you like. So a thrust like this into someone's face, because it's an open-faced helmet, is going to be very effective. More effective than a punch. Smashing someone in the face with the point then opens them up to a hit somewhere else. And I really like they have that hit to the back of the leg. I wonder if they got the idea for that from talking to bowhurt or full contact armored fighters, because this hit to the back of the leg is quite favored in armored fighting because it's where you don't have very much armor. So just looking out at that scene, it's actually beautifully, beautifully done. We can see an encampment, we can see baggage train, wagons. I also love the fact that we can see the liberal use of pavises or pavises, which are large rectangular shields, but essentially a large shield which you can completely hide behind. They're a bit like a door. They've got all of the key elements of Holy Roman Empire warfare visible in here. The baggage train, the encampment, obviously the soldiers, but the large pavises at the front for the soldiers to advance behind. In terms of how they're advancing, I have to say they're quite slow. We can't go back in time. We don't have a time machine, and we don't know how quickly they advanced on enemy walls. But bows and crossbows only really have an effective range of 200, 250 yards for the most part. Some bows can shoot further than that, but for the most part, that's the danger area. It's that 200 yards between you and the enemy. You want to cover that 200 yards in a fairly rapid, not running, because you want to be behind your pavises and you want to be coordinated. I don't think they'd walk incredibly slowly while being shot at. I think they would probably do it at a brisk walk. But anyway, let's see what happens next. So one other thing that's missing here is, why aren't they shooting back? So generally, if you're attacking a fortification or a ship, one of the priorities is to try and clear enemy defenders, it's covering fire, to clear the defenders from the walls if you can, or at least get them to get their heads down. An immediate way that the attackers could reduce their casualty rates is to be shooting back.
Now I'll show you. Dismissed through the gate!
There's something that will never get old about seeing a rock land on someone's head. Obviously not in real life, but in an animated and fun recreational way. But, the fact that this person had a bassinet, this type of helmet on with an aventail, if a large rock hits you on the head, that's still a lot of energy hitting you in the head. So, it wouldn't cave in their skull, but it very likely might knock them out or, concuss them or damage their neck. So yeah, large heavy weights, always effective. So I've got to be honest, so far, this is the one thing which is making me really want to play this game, because I want to drop rocks on people's heads. This looks absolutely hilarious. I like the fact that there's the focus on trying to shoot the guys with the ladders. The game changer will be, number one, if the gate gets chopped in, so that's what the rocks were for, and number two, if those ladders come up against the wall, you've suddenly got loads of people coming up over the wall. And actually, this, again, I think is one of the great overlooked things from historical warfare, is throughout history, the predominant way of getting into an enemy castle or fortification was with a ladder. You don't need high tech, you don't need trebuchets and catapults and Greek fire, and all you need is some ladders. If you have enough people with enough ladders that are long enough to reach to the top of the castle walls, well, then they're going to be in your castle. So I love the fact that ladders are prominent here. Maybe the Pavis guys should be standing in front of the guys with the ladders. Is what I'd do. Stick a shield guy in front of that guy. But anyway, it's the right idea to try and shoot the people with the ladders. So I just want to comment on this kind of slow-mo movement. I'm really surprised by how slow the bots essentially move. They walk slowly, they swing their swords slowly, they climb up ladders slowly. I think it all needs to be sped up a little bit. They just look very, very sluggish and slow-mo in all of their movements, which I find a little bit off-putting. In terms of what they're actually doing, it all looks pretty good.
Take that! Jesus!
I just love the fact that they have put guns in this game, because it's so overlooked in a late medieval setting. And it was a game changer for warfare at this time. The advantage of guns in this period is that armor won't protect you for the most part. So the powerful nature of gunpowder means that you can shoot a projectile through armor that would stop many other things. It would stop all hand weapons pretty much, and would stop most or all crossbow bolts and longbow arrows. Whereas a firearm can be powerful enough to just blast through. In terms of showing how the loading and the firing works, I would put this at about 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10. I think it's pretty good. They don't really, in my view, show all of the steps. They're simplified. Now, I do understand why they do that for gameplay purposes. If it was taking you 30 seconds to load, it would probably be really, really boring. Not at all effective in this close combat situation. And that's important as well.
Take that!
So based on what I've seen, I definitely want to play this game. It looks incredible. Clearly very, very well researched. The armor is all historically correct for the period, beginning of the 1400s essentially. The weapons are all accurately modeled. Even the guard positions, not always, but most of the guard positions are quite good. They're sort of historically inspired, even if they're not perfect, and I would tweak them a bit. I guess the question is about the gameplay, and the fighting does look a bit slow-mo to me, and I don't really understand why that would be the case. There are other games in this genre, Bannerlord for example, where you can move at realistic speed, so I don't understand why this looks quite slow. Of everything I've seen here, I would love to see the combat speed in close combat increased, but overall it looks like it has huge potential. Massive kudos to the historical research that's gone into this.
For more from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, make sure to check out the first 43 minutes of gameplay, 8 details you shouldn't miss, or 8 developer tips for surviving. And for everything else, you're already in the right place with IGN.
Well, look what's back again, the month of March, right on schedule, because that's just how calendars work. And look what it brought along for the ride, a bunch of new video games. Who could have anticipated this? Well, we did, and here are March 2025's biggest game releases. Before we get into it, just the usual caveat that we try to make these videos as comprehensive and informative and accurate as possible, but release dates do change and we have been known to make mistakes. Case in point, last month I got all riled up about PGA Tour 2K25's Legend Edition having the ludicrous price of $199.99, but that was a typo that nobody caught.
The price is wrong.
It's in fact priced at $119.99, so still expensive, but less outlandishly so. So apologies for screwing that up, and for anything else I've ever screwed up or ever will screw up in the future.
Obviously, you're not a golfer.
On a related note, we also do our best to make these videos entertaining, and it's a delicate balancing act sometimes. You make something too serious and you bore people, and you make it too silly and it annoys them, and we heard you loud and clear about last month's episode going a little too hard with the goofs and gags, so we'll try to pump the brakes on that this month.
Shh, even before you start. That was a preemptive shh.
Anyway, let's get on with the video games because that's probably what you're here for. For decades, people have been asking where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, and that answer invariably differs. Back in January, the infamous globe-trotting thief crept onto iOS and Android by way of Netflix games, and on March 4th, you'll be able to catch her on consoles as well. Speaking of March 4th, if you'd rather March 4th in a more regimented ambulatory sense, Age of Mythology Retold comes to PS5 that date as well, following its PC and Xbox Series release last September, and that date also sees its Immortal Pillars expansion dropping on all those platforms I just mentioned. If you'd like to immortalize some stuff in a building with pillars out front, you can do exactly that in 2 Point Museum, the latest cartoony management sim from the folks behind 2 Point Hospital and 2 Point Campus, except this time, you probably guessed, you'll be curating a museum of very silly exhibits. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Still that day is Everhood 2, the follow-up to the 2021 ARPG that paired bizarre visuals with a novel musical approach to combat. That's on Switch and PC. If you prefer more conventional RPG, on March 6th you can play Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Gate Rune, and Dunan Unification Wars, which may sound like a straightforward remaster of the beloved PS1 classics with some fancy buzzwords slapped on for fun, but it is in fact a remaster of the PSP port of said PS1 classics, and you can now play it on all of the modern platforms to your heart's content. March 6th is a big day for new games too. Split Fiction is the latest from Hazelight Studios, the team that gave us A Way Out and It Takes Two, and once again this is played exclusively co-op, and it follows a pair of writers, one sci-fi, one fantasy, who are sucked into a simulation and forced to work together to escape. I guess you could say It Takes Two to find A Way Out. That's coming to PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Also coming to those platforms is Fragpunk, which will have a team of 5 working cooperatively to shoot the members of a different team, also comprised of 5 players, also trying to shoot them in return. That was a really clumsy way of saying this is a 5v5 shooter. But wait, hold on, before your eyes glaze over because we have so many of those, here's the hook for this one. It's got a roguelike twist, and players draw cards that add modifiers that change the dynamic, stuff like flipping the level upside down, or changing the weather to make it harder to run without slipping and falling on your ass, or activating big head mode so you can shoot the enemy teams in the heads more more easily, or making little head mode so they can't shoot you as well. If you'd prefer a game that involves bizarre cranial maladies of this sort, but is a little less of an assault on the senses, Do No Harm is a medical simulation with a Lovecraftian twist, so you'll be treating patients for ordinary old-timey ailments and also helping them cope with the lasting effects of encounters with unthinkable cosmic horrors. That's on PC. If you think dragons suck and you want to beat the crap out of them, you can go do that in Dragonkin the Banished, a good old-fashioned action RPG set in a fantasy realm that is all messed up for dragon-related reasons. That hits early access on PC March 6th with new-gen console versions to follow at a later date. On March 7th, if you're suffering from a bad case of WrestleMania and you've got enough money in the bank, you could beat the clock and play WWE 2K25 a whole week early by snagging the Bloodline or Deadman editions. Otherwise, the standard edition is out March 14th. That's on everything but Switch. If you'd like to play a video game that has considerably less sweaty people jumping on each other, March 7th also sees the release of Sugardew Island, your cozy farm shop. This looks like Stardew Valley by way of Animal Crossing, and you'll toil away in the fields growing cartoon fruits and vegetables to sell to the magical forest folk, befriending some whimsical characters along the way. And also, it has romance options, so hey, maybe it does involve sweaty people jumping on each other. Anyway, that's on Switch, both PlayStations, Xbox Series, and PC. On March 10th, Rise of the Ronin hits PC following a year of console exclusivity on PS5. I feel like this one came and went without much commotion, but it's a totally decent open-world samurai game, so if you can't wait 10 whole days for Assassin's Creed Shadows, or however many months for Ghost of Yotei, that's an option now too. If drinking a hot cup of matcha is more appealing to you than wielding a katana, how about a nice relaxing game about a former arena fighter retiring to manage a tea shop? Well, that's what Wanderstop looks like, but there's more going on here. It's from some of the creators of the Stanley Parable and Gone Home, and in addition to being a cozy game about making tea, it's also a commentary on burnout, like the psychological kind, not the racing game. Check out the trailer for Wanderstop, it looks like it might go places. That's on PS5 and PC on the 11th. On March 13th, Dungeons of Hinterberg meanders its way onto PS4 and PS5 following its Xbox and PC launch last summer. This is also kind of a commentary on burnout, but rather than quitting an exciting violent job to do business stuff, it's about quitting a business job to go do exciting violent stuff, namely climbing around in the Alps slaying monsters instead of climbing the corporate ladder. On March 14th, you can play MLB The Show 25 by grabbing the digital deluxe edition for $99.99 US, and yes, I double-checked that price. You can also save $30 by waiting 4 more days for the standard edition, which is officially out on PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch on the 18th. On March 20th, Assassin's Creed Shadows is supposedly coming out, and this one's been delayed enough times that it's feeling a little bit like Groundhog's Day to tell you about it in a video like this, but in case you haven't been paying attention, this one takes place in feudal Japan and features dual protagonists, Yasuke, who is a samurai, and Naoe, who is a ninja, and as is customary in the Assassin's Creed games, they will climb stuff and stab people, and then jump off of the stuff that they climbed, and then land in conveniently placed hay bales. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, PC, and select Apple devices.
It's fabricated with materials that shouldn't exist, and yet this is clearly a very ancient artifact.
Also on March 20th, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition makes its way to Switch. This was originally released on the Wii U in 2015, and considering the Switch sold 11 times as many units as its predecessor, a whole lot of Xenoblade fans are going to be playing this one for the first time ever, and also I imagine that some fans who played it way back when have forgotten enough in the decade since it came out that it's probably worth a replay. The first few months of the year are usually big for JRPGs, and we regularly get annual installments of long-running series with even longer-running titles. For example, Atelier Yumiya, The Alchemist of Memories, and The Envisioned Land, which is coming to everything on March 21st. This is the follow-up to last year's Atelier Reslariana, Forgotten Alchemy, and The Liberator of Polar Night, which only came to mobile and PC, but the year before that, there was Atelier Ryza 3, Alchemist of the End, and The Secret Key. Not counting ports, remakes, or side stories, new verbosely entitled installments in the Atelier series have been released basically every year since it debuted way back in 1997. This is pretty impressive considering how impenetrable it probably seems to newcomers. I mean, Atelier, the name of the series, is an esoteric word for workshop that I'm not sure how to pronounce, and I had to look up to figure out what it means. So part of me is like, maybe they should workshop that title, but at the same time, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Clearly they're doing something right, because this series has been going for almost 3 decades with steady installments. Outside of sports games, I can't think of too many franchises that have managed to steadily churn out new games for this long without completely derailing, rebooting, becoming massively popular, or some combination thereof. So if we have any Atelier fans watching, I'm really curious, where do you start? How do you get into it? What's the big deal? Am I pronouncing it right?
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Anyway, if you'd like a video game series that's a little more self-explanatory about where it takes place and what you're doing there, Killing Floor 3 hits new gen and PC on the 25th, and it'll have you and maybe some pals teaming up to make a real mess, shooting and stabbing a bunch of god-awful bioengineered abominations. You know, the real Killing Floor is one that has a bunch of slippery areas and trip hazards, so watch your step out there. Somebody put up a wet floor sign for Pete's sake. On March 26th, you can burn rubber and leave skid marks all over the place in JDM Japanese Drift Master, an open-world racer with hyper-realistic gameplay, but a story that unfolds through animated cutscenes that are clearly taking some cues from Initial D. You can install that on your D drive on your PC. On the 27th, Atomfall hits everything but Switch, which has some obvious Fallout DNA, but probably cribs a bit from Stalker as well, as it incorporates some survival elements and is based loosely on a real nuclear disaster rather than a fictional nuclear war. Atomfall takes place in an alternate timeline where the 1957 wind-scale fire went a whole lot worse, leaving the United Kingdom thoroughly irradiated and also populated with some creepy Wicker Man cultists and Bioshock-looking robots, which you will help deal with. Thank goodness you're here. If you'd rather deal with some high-value elusive targets or just make people slip on banana peels in immersive VR, Hitman World of Assassination comes to PlayStation VR 2 that day as well, and you can play or replay the entirety of IO Interactive's utterly brilliant and also completely slapstick assassination sim completely from Agent 47's perspective. This was released for PSVR 1 already, and it's made its way to other VR headsets since then with a not so great reception, but hopefully some extra time allowed this version to be fine-tuned. And hey, even if it's one of the worst ways to play a great game, it's still something new for PSVR 2 owners, and also, you can make people slip on banana peels, which will never not be funny.
Look, 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 look. Look! Oh!
Still that day is Bubble Ghost Remake. Bubble Ghost was first released in 1987 for a variety of personal computers before having the noteworthy honor of being the first French game published for the original Game Boy, or the Jeu de Garçon as they don't actually call it there. Bubble Ghost is about a ghost who has a bubble, and Bubble Ghost Remake is a remake of that game, which is coming to Nintendo Switch. I hope that clears things up. And finally on the 27th, the first Berserker Kazan is a single-player action RPG Souls-like set in the universe of the massively popular Dungeon and Fighter series. And man, it is so nice to see a live service multiplayer game reinvented as a cool-looking single-player game rather than the other way around. And now I want to see Maple's story turned into a horrifying Souls-like. The first Berserker is coming to Xbox Series, PS5, and PC. And finally, on March 28th, Inzoi comes to PC, the ridiculously gorgeous life simulation game, which sort of looks like if somebody remade The Sims in GTA 5 and then installed a bunch of those ultra-realistic graphics mods that make your PC catch fire, but even that isn't doing it justice. Considering what people did with the character creator demo for Inzoi that was released, I cannot wait to see what kind of weird stuff shows up online once that game is out in the wild. That is coming to new-gen consoles later on, but there's no release window quite yet. Okay, those are March 2025's biggest games. If you have trouble keeping track of all of these games, I would highly recommend checking out IGN Playlist. It's kind of like Goodreads or Letterboxd, but it's for games. We've got a massive database of basically every game ever released, announced, or even just rumored, so if you want to keep a list of everything you already played, are currently playing, or want to play someday in the future, you can do that there, among other things. Check it out by going to this website or clicking this QR code, or, just Google it. Real quick before we go, I wanted to plug another video I was in last month that involved me flying to the UK, going to an actual castle, interviewing medieval experts about how historically authentic Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is, and then getting hit on the head with stuff while wearing a full suit of armor. It is one of my favorite videos I've ever been in, so please go watch that if you haven't already. Before we go, a big huge thank you to Amanda Medina, Chris Del Padre, and Logan Plant for helping this video come together each and every month. A lot of work goes into it, even when we screw up sometimes, so thank you to everybody who tunes in every month and watches. Sound off in the comments below with what you're playing this month, or anything we might have forgotten, or just to say hi, whatever. I'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks for watching. Still that day is Bubble Ghost Bubble Ghost. Why is it Bubble Ghost? Still that day is Bubble Ghost Remake. Bubble Ghost is about a ghost who has a bubble. Bubble Ghost, in case you couldn't figure it out, is about a ghost who has a bubble. Still that day is Bubble Ghost Remake. Bubble Ghost was first released in 1987. I don't know why it's so funny. Yes.
IGN Fan Fest 2025 is here. From Monster Hunter Wilds to Mythic Quest, Daredevil Born Again,
Let's dance,
to Devil May Cry. Coming up, the ID at Xbox Showcase. We'll be getting a look at upcoming projects from Don't Nod, NeoWiz, and Raccoon Logic. Plus, new looks at what's coming to hit games like Balatro. IGN Fan Fest Day 1 starts right now.
Hi, I'm Martin Tweed, former CEO of Kindred Aerospace. Fired by Alta Interglobal and abandoned on the far edges of space with no gear, no job, and no plan. But don't panic! While they may have tossed you aside like so much garbage, worry not! Because you can always turn to Kindred for a solution. Introducing the Kindred Catalog. With the right resources, you can create tools such as the Goo Cannon from Saproos. Smother creatures in viscous green goo to make them slip instead of eating you. Disgusting. Or use your lasso to catch them. We promise that any research conducted will unlock more fabulous gear and that the harm to the creature will be minimal. Use conductive pharaoh goo to shock and open organic doors, or spread it on the ground to slow down a speedy foe. Or lay down a goo fuse. Then after your buddy has upgraded that pacifier pistol with a charged shot, light them all up. If that doesn't work, try
the Mad Fork from Kindred Labs.
Move mountains. Create platforms. Grab makeshift spears from the environment. And remember, you still have
your lasso and whip from Wild Times.
Whip some critters to keep them at bay so you or your buddy can punt them off a cliff. Oh, the hilarity that will ensue. Then upgrade that whip so you can grapple launch yourself to new heights. Or better yet, kick a few critters into the air while you and your buddy pick them off with a brand new
Griffin Splunker pacifier pistol.
It's a homemade skeet shooting game. The Kindred Catalog. You have the tools, you have the imagination, and let's face it, you have the time. Find it, build it, then execute it. The wackier the plan, the juicier the solution. I'll be in touch. Onward and upward.
Hello and welcome to the 2025 ID at Xbox Showcase right here on IGN Fan Fest. The ID at Xbox Showcase is all about games, and this year we've got exclusive reveals of brand new games you've never seen before, some great stuff coming to games you already know and love, and a bunch of awesome surprises along the way. And I'm your host, Akeem.
And I'm Alan Wheeler. It's always an honor to join forces with our friends at Xbox to bring you the latest of what Xbox fans will be playing next wherever you play your Xbox games. You just got a brand new look at Revenge of the Savage Planet, the new sci-fi action-adventure game coming your way this May.
The ID at Xbox 2025 Showcase is all a part of IGN Fan Fest, which will be going strong all week long, so be sure to tune into that. And we'll have interviews with some of the most talented directors, actors, writers, and game makers in the world, and new looks at things like Daredevil Born Again, Mythic Quest, WWE 2K25, and so much more. And hey, if you miss any of that, don't stress it. You can easily catch up on IGN.com or IGN's YouTube page.
But for now, let's get back to the ID at Xbox Showcase with a sneak peek at some big games heading to Xbox in the not-so-distant future. Take a look.
Warning, hostile ships detected.
Rise and shine, little merchant. Wake up. Wake up, Will. Get ready. Your next journey unfolds. A new place to call home. Uncharted lands brimming with peril. And treasures beyond imagination. Tread carefully, though. Who knows what tomorrow holds?
I, Herbert S. Sinclair, give to my grandnephew, Simon P. Jones, the house and land which I own near Mount Holly. The above provision is contingent on discovering the location of the 46th room of my 45-room estate. Any heir worthy of the Sinclair legacy should have no trouble uncovering its whereabouts within a timely manner. Should my grandnephew fail to uncover this room, then this gift shall lapse. Herbert S. Sinclair.
You just got to look at Jumpship, Echo Weaver, Moonlighter 2, The Endless Vault, and Blueprints. You can sign up for the Jumpship beta today at jumpshipgame.com. And Blueprints, the gorgeous puzzle game, will be arriving day one on Xbox Game Pass. Now, believe it or not, we're only just getting started here. Coming up, 4 more games we can't wait to show you.
That's right, the 2025 ID Xbox Showcase has tons more game reveals and surprises in store right here on IGN Fan Fest. But first, we need to take a quick break. Stick around. FanFest is presented by the Army National Guard, serving our communities and helping those in need. Are you ready to make a difference?
IGN Plus is where your adventure begins.
What are you selling?
Plus is the place to get unlimited access to all the tools you need to beat your games.
Here's what you need to know for bringing down Gloomspawn.
Plus, awesome exclusive discounts on IGN Store.
Maybe this would tease open your money pouch.
Plus, ad-free browsing on IGN.com. Plus, unlimited game help tools like premium interactive maps with your own custom map markers, filters, marker notes, and more.
This will come in handy.
Plus, access to sweepstakes, giveaways, and free game keys.
Wow!
Exactly. Want more? Head to IGN.com/plus and start your adventure today. IGN Store has it all. From clothes and collectibles to vinyl records, accessories, model kits, and action figures from the biggest and best franchises like The Legend of Zelda, Star Wars, Fallout, Dungeons & Dragons, and more. Whatever your pop culture passion, you're guaranteed to find something you love. There are new and exciting products hitting the store every week, like the Wasteland-ready Fallout Vault 33 hoodie, which pairs perfectly with the working wearable Pip-Boy. Plus, high-quality IGN Store exclusives like the powerful and spicy Star Wars Darkside Hot Sauce by Truff. We've even got merchandise for you to rock while tuning in to the IGN shows and podcasts you love. Or cap off a long day by relaxing to the soundtracks of your favorite video games, like Cyberpunk and The Last of Us. And the best part? You don't even need to leave the house to go there. Just head to store.ign.com and start shopping today. The IGN Store. You deserve it.
Hey, welcome back to ID at Xbox right here on IGN Fan Fest. Now up next, we have 4 more games we can't wait to show you, starting with Outbound. So let's go.
You just saw Outbound, Hurdling, Waxheads, and the Lonesome Guild, all part of the 2025 ID at Xbox Showcase.
Now let's get back to the video game, shall we? Now up next, we have a few things you've never seen before and some great content coming to games you probably already love.
But hey, enough teasing from us. Let's roll it.
Let the game begin. How painfully human.
Taste the chains of despair. I'll burn you to the bone!
Should we just put some cards on the table?
You know what they say, the house always wins.
Looks like the joke's on us.
You know, just when I thought I couldn't possibly be more hooked on Balatro, they drop a collaboration I'm already obsessed with. That one was huge, but this next world premiere is gonna rock your world. Check it out.
Tonight on Behind the Curtain, we dive deep into one of the 90s most controversial bands.
It was beyond our wildest dreams.
Their music defined a generation.
What can I say, man? Artistic genius is a curse.
The man behind this meteoric rise, their notorious manager.
He drove from out of town to meet us. We were waiting at this bar.
We'll be paying this guy, so I want to know. What exactly will you do for us?
Plain and simple, I'll make you rich. You know why I'm here, lad? I'm here to f*** you over.
Make me stray, Pharaoh.
You'll
Filthy rich, drowning in women, piss through it all.
Oh my God, Vernon!
I know where this road leads, and it ain't nowhere pretty.
Looking for trouble?
Effervescent, isn't it?
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll. So, I gotta ask, would you do anything differently?
What exactly will you do for us?
Mostly, I just try to stay out of your way.
That's it?
That was the world premiere and release date reveal for Rock Beasts, and it looks like it absolutely rocks. You know, everybody knows that rock beats scissors, paper beats rock, and scissors beats paper, but a beast would probably just destroy all of them, let alone a rock beast.
You know, that's something I never had to think about until right now, but it's actually pretty true. So thanks for that information, Al. I appreciate it. All right, well, there's tons more IGN Xbox Showcase coming up right after this quick break, so please stick around.
Fan Fest is presented by Mecha Break. Open beta available now on PC and Xbox with crossplay.
The average Cinefix movie list features nearly 100 different films and approximately 25 minutes worth of wall-to-wall deep dive analysis. To simulate that pace for this 30-second ad, we're featuring 26 different films, and before you say it, no, that math does not check out. We're not math people, we're movie people. We can't even count down from 10 without ending up at, like, 96. Subscribe to IGN Movies and TV for more Cinefix movie lists. Bad at math, great at movies.
Can't find that final collectible you're missing? IGN strategy guides and interactive maps are here to help.
One step at a time.
IGN guides are trusted by millions, easy to use, and best of all, free. IGN has the very best, most complete and accurate guides for Shadow of the Erdtree, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, and so much more.
See? It's good, right?
Every guide is tested and verified for you by experts. Just search for IGN when you search for guides.
IGN Plus is where your adventure begins.
What are you selling?
Plus is the place to get unlimited access to all the tools you need to beat your games.
Here's what you need to know for bringing down Gloomspawn.
Plus awesome exclusive discounts on IGN Store.
Maybe this would tease open your money pouch.
Plus ad-free browsing on IGN.com. Plus, unlimited game help tools like premium interactive maps with your own custom map markers, filters, marker notes, and more.
This will come in handy.
Plus, access to sweepstakes, giveaways, and free game keys.
Wow! Exactly.
Want more? Head to IGN.com/plus and start your adventure today.
Welcome back to IGN Xbox on IGN Fan Fest. Up next, 3 more games guaranteed to put a smile on your face, especially if you were fond of a certain rhythm-based strategy series that involved commanding an army of little creatures to the tune of a catchy soundtrack. Sound familiar? Here's a gameplay clip from the upcoming rhythm-based roguelike Ratatan.
We all keep our favorite moments close to us, somewhere safe. This box holds mine. Welcome to Widow. This is a cozy, story-driven game about my happiest memory, summer in the countryside. Let me show you. It's simple. Just drag each object to its place, assembling the story, piece by piece, cup to cup, cat to cat. One summer, I was sent to the countryside. You know, a place that's not marked on any map. I used to be such a city girl, always online, always busy. Spending my whole summer in a forsaken village? No thanks. But here I am, surrounded by a gang of geese, clearly thinking they're the biggest deal around here. But who had been feeding them so well? Perhaps a goose grandma who always says they're too skinny? I had to fight a sneaky goat every day from my own backpack, cheered on by the laughter of the tiny yellow goslings. And that's how the story starts. My first day in a sweet village, full of joy, friendly faces, and welcoming warmth from the locals. Lovely place. But, you know, everything changed when I met Ben.
That was Tempopo, Ratatan, and Widow. And honestly, saying those three very different game names in a row makes them sound like a roving band of like mischievous elves or three aliens in the very back of a Star Wars cantina.
You know what? You might be onto something with that one. Now, we're getting close to the finish line here today, but that doesn't mean we're out of surprises for you just yet. We've got lots more new games to show you, plus a huge update coming to one of the best games of the generation. All this and more as the 2025 IGN Xbox Showcase continues after this break.
FanFest is presented by War Robots Frontiers. Pre-register now for an exclusive reward.
The Cinefix Top 100. A list so secretive even we don't know what movies are on it or where they rank.
What do you mean you don't know?
Each episode will reveal one of the movies.
Did I rush it? Felt like I rushed. That was good. I liked it.
Talk about why it belongs and finally find out where it ranks.
Are you not entertained?
Are any of the movies we've shown here even on the list? I have no idea, and it drives me crazy. Join us as we find out on Cinefix, IGN, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Why so serious?
IGN Plus is where your adventure begins.
What are you selling?
Plus is the place to get unlimited access to all the tools you need to beat your games.
Here's what you need to know for bringing down Gloomspawn.
Plus, awesome exclusive discounts on IGN Store.
Maybe this would tease open your money pouch.
Plus, ad-free browsing on IGN.com. Plus, unlimited game help tools like premium interactive maps with your own custom map markers, filters, marker notes, and more.
This will come in handy.
Plus, access to sweepstakes, giveaways, and free game keys.
Wow! Exactly.
Want more? Head to IGN.com/plus and start your adventure today.
Can't find that final collectible you're missing? IGN strategy guides and interactive maps are here to help.
One step at a time.
IGN guides are trusted by millions, easy to use, and best of all, free. IGN has the very best, most complete and accurate guides for Shadow of the Erdtree, Baldur's Gate 3, Tears of the Kingdom, and so much more.
See? It's good, right?
Every guide is tested and verified for you by experts. Just search for IGN when you search for guides.
Welcome back to the 2025 IGN Xbox Showcase right here on IGN's Fan Fest. Now up next, we've got a bunch of new game trailers to show you, so hey, instead of just teasing you and making you try to guess what we're gonna show you, we'll just cut to the chase and give you what you want. Take it away.
This is Pon. He's a Tanuki. This summer, by order of the Tanuki god, Pon has to restore the great Tanuki shrine To do so, he needs to earn money. Pon takes on the role of a delivery tanuki, mixing hard work with stunting around town. It's a busy summer for Pon, but even tanuki need to rest now and then. This is Pon's Summer. We hope you'll enjoy the adventure together. Tanuki, Pon's Summer. Available on Xbox Game Pass later this year.
Cora, Beck, Tron. Every grid has its heroes. The Arc grid fractures into the glitch, but one program stands against that storm. Exo. You. A hero is nothing without their grid. Exo fights for hers, against those who would tear it apart. She must escape Core, but escape is not enough. A loop cannot be broken without a change in conditions. Break the Loop program.
That was Tanuki Pon's Summer, Descender's Next, Tron Catalyst, and 33 Immortals. A little something for everyone, and that's the truth. But hey, if the truth really isn't your thing, you probably love the 2023 action game Lies of P that turned the classic story of Pinocchio into a brutal steampunk horror world full of terrifying puppet monsters.
Yeah, but 2023 was so long ago, so maybe you're asking yourself, when are we gonna get to go back to the world of Lies of P and experience a whole new adventure? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we have your answer right here and right now on the 2025 IGN Xbox Showcase. Take a look.
Listening to this song always reminds me of you. But now you belong to the past. Do you remember the time we all gathered to play this piece together? I never got to say farewell. I know it changed everything, but we endured. Perhaps someday, if we can cross the bounds of time, we'll meet again.
And there you have it, the exciting reveal of Lies of P Overture from the brilliantly talented team at NeoWiz. And that just about wraps us up here at the 2025 IGN Xbox Showcase here on IGN. And it was a blast.
Yeah, but wait, if you want even more fun for Xbox fans, stick around, because Unlocked is our weekly Xbox podcast here at IGN, and we've got a whole post-show coming your way with special guest Guy Richards, the head of IGN Xbox.
And believe it or not, the IGN Xbox Showcase is just day one of IGN Fan Fest, and we've got 4 full days of fantastic stuff just for you, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow, continuing each day all week long. And we'll have new looks at things like Mythic Quest, Daredevil Born Again, WWE 2K25, Alien Rogue Incursion, the new horror comedy The Monkey, and tons more. Check out IGN.com for the full schedule and IGN's YouTube channel for anything you might have missed.
But for now, thank you all so much for watching the IGN Xbox Showcase and celebrating all these fantastic game reveals with us at IGN. It's always an honor to partner with Xbox to help bring you the future of Xbox games. We'll see you again very soon.